There you go, now I can see chat. Sorry guys. Like feature stuff?
I don't know.
No, is there like the football thing where
You mean a coach?
yeah.
I can get a coach, but I don't know if you can. That would be something I would have to ask them.
Yeah.
Euphrates River. Hey, I got a new lesson for you about ancient Mesopotamia. The Euphrates River and the Tigris River form the cradle of civilization.
Cadians long ago took the Sumer to control. His armies and the Syrians they rolled by the Euphrates River. Euphrates River by the Euphrates River by the Euphrates River. All is just as conservation. Euphrates River. Euphrates River by the Euphrates River.
First over 100 goal my finger part. I was sleeping.
Guardians long ago took us somewhat to control. Hearts and chariots they rolled while the Euphrates on the ground. Pushing out on the Dang, bro. Damn. Dang, bro.
Looks like a cold front's coming in this week, so I'd recommend staying indoors. Rather get the bearskin hoodie 3.0.
This is Panther Lead, approaching target. Good hit. Rear bridge is down, coming back around. Let's bring it home, Panthers. Slight lead. We've got AA coming from the Chinese side.
We can't touch them. Time to bug out.
Roger that.
I still have ordnance. I can hit the bridge. It's too much AA, 211. Stand down. Jesse, stand down. That's an order.
In this Roblox entrenched simulation, 100 German soldiers have to capture this Russian super fortress. I gave the Scots Guard 2 hours to build it, and the strategy they came up with is absolutely unstoppable. Watch this Roblox World War I simulation to the end, because the battle is an actual bloodbath, and you definitely don't want to miss it. The guards are finally beginning to dig their fortifications. Now, you will see there is a structure beginning to take shape. Now, I just dropped into the guards' Discord stage where there is currently a live stream taking place. Oh, I know what this means. That's grass, that's bedrock, and then there's 3 machine gun positions. This should hopefully give you a little bit more of an idea of the plan that they're going for. Look at the strategy. They're gonna dig all the ground away to bedrock and then put, like, machine guns in the walls. And in fact, we can actually already see that happening. They're like digging out like where their fortification is gonna be. What's gonna happen is they're gonna keep digging that back to expose all of the land. Now, so far they've used 10 minutes to do this, and they've got 1 hour and 50 minutes left. And I think this angle here actually makes it very obvious exactly what they're doing. On the left-hand side, there's like a river, which is basically just like a natural defense, and they're essentially just in the corner of the map down here. Look at this Scots Guard dig team, man. It's honestly like an excavation site. They're just like digging as they go. Now, what they're doing here is they're marking out like how far they want to like dig out. So you see all this territory in between. They're gonna basically remove all of it. remember, there's 30 guards against 100 army. They better get to work on this fortress because after the 2-hour build phase has ended, respawns will be turned off, meaning each player gets just 1 life. To win this battle, the guards need a kill to death ratio of 3-to-1. Okay, lads, so I'm spectating this like massive ringed dig build that you're going for here. I suspect I know what your strategy is, but please could you explain what you're trying to do?
We're just gonna completely...
In the biggest social experiment ever done in between the nations was very poor and small.
I love you, Fancy.
Carnage, nice to meet you.
Oh, yo, what up?
I see you're doing great things with Mexico. I'm very,
Yeah, you like it?
yeah, I love it. Viva la Mexico. Listen, Carnage, I understand you guys have personal affairs with U.S. and the president right now. Is that correct?
Yeah.
President. I think he's a piece of shit.
Yep.
We're based over in I-14 right now at Acadia. We have a small town. I'm thinking it'd be a real shame if we merge right the capital together. It'd be a real shame.
I'm down to do something with you and your people.
I guess we can keep a contact for now and keep each other posted on what's gonna happen. But if you guys decide to attack U.S., just know that you have the support of Arcadia.
Negotiations went very well for Acadia and Mexico. These two groups formed a deal because they both had a common enemy. But as this was happening, things were looking very bad in Europe. The Russian hashtag clan was raiding the peaceful farmers again. I tuned right into attack and the farmers were not happy this time.
Alright, guys. There will have to be a war now. We don't let this slide.
But all of a sudden, there was a resistance. Emperor of Rome Harvest vowed there would be peace in Europe, and he was not letting the Russians get away this time. Rome and Greece stormed over to the farmers' base to stop the raid on the farmers because Europe could no longer let violence enter their continent. And it was working. Rome and Greece had pushed back the hashtag clan to Russia and stopped the attack on Europe. But this wasn't enough for Emperor Harvest. He wanted to make a statement to Russia. And so Harvest gathered the entirety of Europe alongside with OT. Do you remember right before Trapistan attacked the Colosseum, Harvest was meeting with the leader of OT. Emperor Harvest had convinced OT in negotiations earlier to help raid the hashtag clan, because if Russia kept attacking the European nations, they'd eventually start attacking the Middle East. And since there are a ton of oil drills in the Middle East, OT wasn't going to let that happen. And so the plan was complete and all parties knew what they had to do.
You know who tried to raid the farmers and who tried to take everything from them? It was hashtag clan.
They're just trying to make a peaceful nation with farmers. They not only raided us once, they raided us twice.
Yes, for the farmers, okay? This is for the farmers!
We'll probably raid slow, like don't think it's gonna be a pummel or anything. Any enemy kits that you get, just take it back to your red base instantly. Don't panic if they're like pushing out and stuff. There's literally 50 of us, just be good for yours.
Rome and Greece would stay in the back with the raid base and OT would be doing the dirty work, pushing in and raiding through the base. It was an obliteration. Now, the hashtag clan knew what it felt like being bullied by the bigger fish and experienced the same treatment they've been giving to the peaceful farmers. When you have the best clan in Rust raiding you along with Rome and Greece, two massive countries, there was nothing the hashtag clan could do and this raid would quickly be over. The hashtag clan was officially removed from the server and peace was restored back in Europe.
Once everything's perfectly organized, I'll start working on my thesis.
Grammarly will ensure you feel confident kneeling.
Over back in America, a new war would begin. Today would be the downfall of President Brallo in the United States because earlier today, two groups who hate Brallo merged together, Mexico and Acadia.
You guys decide to attack U.S., just know that you have the support of Arcadia.
Mexico wants their revenge and Coconut Bee wants presidency. This was a 2 versus 1 battle.
Take control of that tower. Roger that. We'll take control of that tower. We're going. We got it. We got it.
There was a giant tower overlooking the United States and Brallo's men were positioned there. Mexico soldiers couldn't push in because of this tower, so Carnage assigned Coconut Bee and his forces to take it over.
Team, we're going to take that wood tower to our east. Riders right here.
Because this tower overlooks the entire battlefield, this would be a crucial point to control.
Take that wood tower. Take that wood tower.
Meanwhile, Mexico were building up their raid bases and preparing for this attack. The US soldiers realized they were outnumbered here with 2 countries attacking them, so President Brallo made a quick call to even the odds.
Oh god, there's a huge team in our town! There's like a 20
What
man
team?
coming from our town side.
Are you f***ing serious?
It's not getting raided, it's not getting raided, they're just pushing through it. They're gonna flank Mexico right now.
The The French were now in America, and they were coming right to the raid to support Brawler. This was no longer a battle now. This is a world war.
All right, no, we gotta fall back. We have to fall back. We need to fight that team. We need to fight that 20-man going to Mexico. They're gonna kill them.
We saw earlier today Brawler making an alliance with the French.
I think we'll be a great ally to each other.
And he had called them over to help America because Brawler didn't have enough men to win this war. Coconut Bee had to cut them off to prevent the French from reaching Mexico.
Go! Mexico! Mexico! There's 20 guys coming for you!
What direction?
They're coming to the raid. We're gonna hold for you. From high 14, we'll handle them. On my marker, red marker. All on the rock. Let's take them out. Here they are. That's them. Take them the fuck out! Charge in! Let's go!
France wasn't expecting the cutoff, and their men were dying left and right. The admirable leadership by Coconut Bee allowed him and his men to prevent France from reaching Mexico to stop the raid on Brawler. So, it left France no choice but to fall back and retreat out of America.
They're falling back!
Acadia had pushed back the French soldiers and now could return back to the raid on President Brawler.
We took them out. Let's go back to the raid, boys. Mission accomplished.
Returning back to battle, leader of Mexico, Carnage, was able to take control of the tower, but he needed reinforcements badly because he was stuck up there alone.
Team, let's go on me.
America was now taking heavy damage. The Mexican soldiers were now able to push up and start rocketing the base. America had lost a lot of momentum now that they realized that France was leaving their country and not able to help the USA.
Carnage!
Yeah, I'm up here. I took over the tower.
I'm coming. How we doing? How's Mexico doing? We took out a 20-man.
Look, come here. I'm gonna leave you. I gotta go back with my team. Destroy these bags, okay? All right. Destroy all these bags.
We will. Carnage!
Believe it or not, that's when this raid took a quick turn, and now Acadia, Mexico would start to lose momentum because America still had one more alliance to call in.
Get out.
OT arrived in North America. Now President Brawler wasn't alone. You see, OT had just finished raiding the hashtag clan before this raid, so they were already geared up, weapons ready to go, and left Russia to immediately go assist President Brawler. No one was expecting them to pull up. And worst of all, OT landed behind both of these teams, so now Mexico and Acadia were the ones pinched in the middle.
What's going on? Possible fight from the south? Oh my god. There's a 50-man coming from the south. It might be OT. They're here to counter us.
For OT, this would be an easy in-and-out job. All they had to do was cross the road and flank Mexico. And with Coconut Bee and Acadia stuck up in the tower, there was no one in their way to stop them. They had full control of the situation.
Holy! They're all there! Holy f***, they're going for Mexico. They're rocketing these motherfuckers! These traitors!
And that's when Coco realized it. This battle was going to be lost. OT managed to get behind Mexico and stop their attack, and President Brawler was able to secure his base in the nighttime. Thinking back, it makes sense why OT would arrive in America for this world war. OT and America established their alliance by raiding Mexico on day 1. And earlier today, we saw a Mexican soldier assassinate the leader of OT. So Oil Team was more than happy to crash this party. On day 2 of global warfare, Brawler demonstrated that having allies in this event is a huge factor, and he owed them a lot for saving his ass today. And as the war in North America was concluding, over in Africa a new one was about to start. You see, the people of Africa were still being tormented by the group in South Africa. South Africa was blocking all the quarries and preventing their own people of this continent from accessing valuable resources. Diamond Kid, the king of Africa, had no choice but to go to Australia for help, and they were ready to assist the people of Africa. And together, they signed a treaty to alliance to form as one to raid South Africa.
Group in South Africa from day one has been with us. With us all, and we will not let that stand. Who's with me?
This was the battle for Africa. 60 minutes later, after a long-fought battle, Africa and Australia failed to raid South Africa. Dead bodies were everywhere as the people of Africa and Australia felt defeated. Leader of Africa, Diamond Kid, made an alliance earlier with the USA so they could help him with this raid, but they never did. Diamond Kid then realized that President Barlow left him in the dust and let Africa fight a losing war.
USA is our ally. What allies do, they protect each other, they support each other, and that's exactly what we're gonna do.
Australia was the only group willing to help Diamond Kid, but since everything was so rushed and America didn't send Africa rockets, this unorganized raid was doomed from the start. South Africa would continue to take over the rest of the continent and would continue to control all resources in Africa. On day 2 of global warfare, we saw a lot more politics between countries, which led to more wars happening. Everyone is starting to make alliances now as people realize it's crucial to thrive on this server. But day 3 tomorrow will change the entire event, as the hostage event will take place and the country that wins it will be receiving a nuclear bomb that can destroy any base in seconds. Tomorrow would be a very stressful day for everyone. Welcome to day 3.
Follow me.
What?
Oh, we're gonna get cut off. We weren't just about to get cut off, though. We were about to walk right into a trap. We were about to run through Trapistan.
What's up, dog?
We're about halfway there, guys.
Homie?
Holy shit! Oh shit, we're in Afghanistan territory.
It's the weekend, right?
Oh shit!
You ain't got homework, right, Colton?
After that,
Colton,
and we're
you ain't got
even mad
homework,
that
right?
they lost the raid because history was made on Rust on this day.
Okay.
There were no more
What?
wars
You
or
ain't got homework,
politics
right,
now
or
that the
nothing?
UN was gone. It finally seemed that peace was restored back on the server. So with that being said, I think it's a great moment to see how all of our character stories
We might
end.
have to run Parker over to his house.
The leader of the Russian hashtag clan who was bullying the peaceful farmers of Europe actually changed his ways and ended up joining the farm.
This is the Messerschmitt ME-163 Comet. Its unusual compact design makes it known as gliders. At this time, the Germans had already had some experience testing rocket engines. The problem with those was they could only sustain flight for short periods before they burned up all their fuel. So then, why not put a rocket engine in a glider? The pilot will have rocket power at his disposal, and when the fuel runs out, he's piloting a craft that doesn't need power to fly. After numerous prototypes, testing, alterations, variations, and a handful of dead test pilots and crew, the Messerschmitt ME-163 Comet was first deployed in combat operations in 1944. Let's take a look at some of the features that made the Comet so exceptional and so deadly. The tiny aircraft was less than 6 meters in length and held a single seat. Before takeoff, it was fitted with a dolly consisting of 2 wheels. Once it was airborne, the dolly was jettisoned off the craft, revealing a single skid as its permanent nose gear. As the Comet would be an unpowered glider once its rocket fuel ran out, the skid was more suitable for landing, but it wasn't without its problems. The skid was held in place by an oleopneumatic strut, a very common mechanism in modern-day aircraft that absorbs the shock when landing. In such a compact aircraft, it's very important that this works correctly. If it malfunctioned, or if the pilot had mistakenly left it in the locked position while descending, they were in for a very rough landing. During the Comet's development, 3 of its main test pilots got to experience this and were hospitalized with serious spinal damage and skull fractures.
So what is ClickUp? ClickUp is an all-in-one productivity software where you can manage everything and anything.
Yeah?
Sorry you had to deal with a bully like that. Assault? Yeah, he assaulted you. He's gonna get assault charges put against him. No. Hopefully he's never gonna be in Indian Creek local school district anymore. Hopefully he gets kicked out of Indian Creek local school district forever. He's a bully not only to you, he's a bully to other kids. Yeah, he is he not? Not today, I'm talking throughout all the other times. Oh. Yeah. I'm sorry you had to deal with that, but that's why you don't like bullies, right? You're not a bully. We're not bullies to nobody.
Oh.
World War I, also known as the First World War or the War to End All Wars. Spoiler alert, it did not. Or named the Great War, which makes absolutely no sense but fits beautifully between good and awesome. The Great War basically started with one dude with a Bosnian Lives Matter flag who fragged a guy in a car who happened to be the Archduke of Austria. Well, almost. The Archduke survived the attack, but was dumb enough to keep driving around trying to look cool. Shortly after, he was shot and killed by someone else. This pissed off Austria-Hungary, who teamed up with Germany, Bulgaria, the Ottoman Empire, and a few more countries that, well, no one really gives a shit about. Serbia basically teamed up with roughly half of Europe and half of, actually, the rest of the world. There is your first hint about who's going to win this thing. But Germany had a bold idea called the, oh my god, Schlieffen Plan, to quickly invade France and win the war. Second spoiler alert, it did not. The First World War is known for its static battles with insane high casualty rates, often without significant gains for either side. The first military campaign was launched in 1914 by Austria-Hungary against the Kingdom of Serbia. After fucking up 3 invasion attempts, Serbia was successfully invaded in 1915. Meanwhile, in the West, the Germans initiated their Schlieffen Plan. Basically, the idea was to invade Belgium where they expected little resistance. Then use their road and rail network to move all their shit, or Scheiße, straight into France. After which, they would stampede hundreds of miles south to the Swiss border and eat, who's writing this rubbish? Cheese fondue.
No.
There's a couple of problems regarding the plan that are probably worth mentioning. For starters, the Belgians put up a fierce fight, likely due to their neutrality and Germany shitting all over it by invading, triggering Britain to send their expeditionary army to fuck up their plans even more. In addition, the Belgian road networks suck ass today, let alone in 1914. So you can imagine the Germans were forced to move their 250,000 troops mostly by rail, and of course, the Belgians continued shitting on German planning by blowing up their own rail infrastructure, which they still haven't fixed today. This video is sponsored by War Thunder. These weapons with poisonous gas being arguably the most controversial. The Battle of Verdun is the longest battle in military history, beginning on February the 21st until December the 18th, 1916. The initial German advance brought some successes. One of them was the capture of the French Douaumont fortress without firing a single shot. Perhaps the French soldiers were too busy eating their baguettes and drinking Le Cognac. Initially, the Germans planned to hold the high ground west of Verdun, while the Allies kept sending reinforcements. This was done via a supply road that was bombarded intensively throughout the battle. The losses mounted on both sides, and after 5 months, the Germans had to divert troops to the Battle of the Somme. Moving over to the seas, most battles were fought between German U-boats and the Allied navies. At the Battle of Jutland, the surface fleets of both sides met and exchanged fire. Germany sunk more ships, but still shat their lederhoses because of Britain and because of, well, too many ships. They withdrew their fleet and kept it in the port for the rest of the war. Back on land, the Battle of the Somme was becoming even deadlier than Verdun. The first day, the British alone suffered more than 57,000 casualties. The Allied planners were too optimistic about breaking through German defences, a costly lesson by anybody's standard. By now, the British started to deploy different types of tanks. A male-classed variant with 6-pounder guns and a female version armed with machine guns rolled over the battlefield. A non-binary tank with no guns was also in development because... Of course it wasn't. The whole world was killing each other. They weren't crazy. A year later, the French army introduced the Renault 17 tank with a full rotating turret. The first tank that could do a 360 no-scope. The Germans suffered less casualties than the Allies because they were mostly on the defensive after their initial invasion. That's why they pimped up their trenches a bit more to include massage salons and jacuzzis. Well, maybe not those last two, but still, they did it better. In 1917, Germans were wearing their happy socks because the Russian Revolution ended the war in the east, and Germany could now transfer many divisions to the west to support their upcoming spring offensive. In the same year, the US joined the war. So the German offensive was an all-in situation for Germany to save themselves from US intervention.
If you sleep on your side, I bet you hate your pillow, and this is why. They might be as fluffy as a cloud, but they just don't support your head.
In the skies above, more and more planes emerged. At the start of the war, most planes flew scout missions, but as the war progressed, these planes were getting involved in combat missions. At first, pilots drew pistols to shoot at each other, and bombs were carried on a pilot's lap before being thrown out. Jesus. These Wild West pistol shootouts were transformed to dogfights between fighter planes and bombers to go for the role for strategic bombing. Far down below, the Third Battle of Ypres, or Battle of Passchendaele, unfolded. Basically, another great battle with great losses around another tiny village. Except this time, all the fighting took place in 3 feet of mud. Not pleasant at all. Meanwhile, outside of Europe, battles were fought between Allied colonial-controlled countries in Africa and German-occupied territories. However, most European countries did not give a fuck about Africa, and even argued to collaborate to keep repressing the indigenous population. Does that sound a bit like racism to you? Speaking of racism, did you hear about the Ottomans and the Armenians in World War I? Just a question. No controversial references intended, of course. Now, on to a more serious note. The Ottomans also threatened the British army by trying to butt-plug the Suez Canal. In the north, they advanced through the Caucasus to fight the Russian Empire. In East Asia and the Pacific, the Germans were also bullied by the Japanese, who occupied vast territories from them. And yes, Germany and Japan were not best buddies yet, because this is the First World War and not the Second. Minor detail. Back in the West, German army made initial gains with their spring offensive and even came within 100 kilometers of Paris. They brought in some giant railroad guns and fired off a few shots at the city center to piss off the city folks. By now, the German operation faced logistical challenges. Fortunately, they had experience with their Schlieffen plan, so they did not do anything, did not fix anything, and the entire plan went into the shitter once again. To make matters worse, the Allies transformed the front line into a clustering web fight of trenches. What followed was the Battle of Amiens, being part of the 100-day offensive that eventually moved the Allied troops beyond the heavily defended Hindenburg line. By now, only Germany was left fighting the Allies, and the morale in the German army at this point was, shall we say, pretty bad. With their previous failed spring offensive and mounting losses now exceeding those of the Allies, timing was everything for Germany to end the war as soon as possible. In a dense forest on the outskirts of Compiègne, the German delegation met with a few important-looking Allied foes to sign the armistice. The signing eventually led to the Treaty of Versailles, a piece of paper basically stating Germany was going to pay big time for 4 years of shit, give up a big chunk of German territory to pissed-off neighbors, and finally pinky promise to never start another world war, especially one that is promoted by a screaming Austrian guy with a square moustache. The armistice was signed on the 11th of November 1918 at 5:45 a.m. and came into effect at 11 o'clock the same day, which is a bit of a shame for particularly one soldier who died 1 minute before 11. Again, timing is everything. Play War Thunder now for free on PC, PlayStation or Xbox using...
Get the new iPhone 15 Pro with titanium from Boost Infinite and
Imagine making millions of dollars by simply playing Roblox.
Don't stop the video. That's literally impossible.
Are you sure about that?
That's just one of the few who turned their love for Roblox into billions of Robux, the largest games on the planet, real historical moments, and more. But to find out how they did this, we need to dive into their full stories one by one, beginning with Stickmaster Luke. Upon joining Roblox, Luke was your average 14-year-old kid playing games and having fun. But he wasn't happy being just a player. He wanted to make a game go big. His main goal with this was not just to get rich, but to also prove that with enough passion, you can bring a whole community together. Except, the odds of this happening were close to zero. We're talking about 2007. To give you a sense of this, here's an average game from our time. And compare that to one from Luke's time. With nothing to work with, maybe his dream was already dead. But if you truly want to achieve your goals, you should never be afraid to take that first step. Welcome to the Underground War. Even with nothing, Luke tried his best. Despite its flaws, players somehow found joy out of terrorizing other players, which led to the game reaching a couple thousand visits.
This kid is going places.
Although it's not much, this was amazing for Luke, because the thing is, Roblox back then paid you virtual money whenever someone joins your game. So instead of relaxing, Luke grinded out a butt ton of games in the following years, getting more players and more money from his fun, simple ideas, as well as showing them off on YouTube, which clearly worked. His original ideas sparked some of the most well-known Roblox players, so obviously he deserves some amount of fortune. But even with this money, he can easily lose it all if he didn't spend it wisely. No way you're spending all that Robux on one single hat. In hindsight, this may seem like a dumb move, but you'll see why it's genius. But to make the money back, Luke worked really hard on his games, making each one better than the last. But rather than making them flashy like modern games, he focused on making them replayable, meaning you can play them again and again and again without getting bored. This led to him reaching 10 million visits, meeting actual Roblox admins, and most importantly, buying a bunch of hats for some reason. But this would all change on one fateful day. It's 2011 and Luke got a message from a special person.